Hi everybody, I'd like to make a follow-up video for this week's lecture content on chapter 6, Changing Propositions. So this is page 166 to 170. It's the next lot of readings for week 5. I don't expect everyone to really understand all of this in depth, but at least it would be great if you can get on top of the basic terminology, the basic distinctions, which might be useful in your final essays. Okay, so here we're going to look at the distinction between immediate and mediate inferences. So we looked at this before, the idea about immediate knowledge and mediated knowledge. So inference. What is the inference? Inference is a third act of the mind, moving from premise or premises to conclusion. Drawing a conclusion from one or more premise, it is a synonym for reasoning or arguing. So when we say inference, are you making a valid inference? Really, it's a synonym for are you arguing well, or has the same meaning as are you arguing or are you being reasonable? So, however, the word inference has more strict connotations to it. What an inference or argument claims is that if the premise or premises are true, then a conclusion must be true. That the conclusion must logically follow from the premises. So when there is only one premise, we have what's called an immediate inference. When there are two or more premises, we have mediate inference. Since the conclusion is drawn not from the first premise alone immediately, but only through mediation of at least one other premise. So to give an example, an immediate inference is no apes are angels, therefore no angels are apes. See, only two sentences there, two statements. So it's immediate. Mediated inference, in which we have two or more premises, can be exemplified by the following. Angels are pure spirits. 1. Pure spirits are not confined by space. 2. Therefore, angels are not confined by space. So you can see that distinction between immediate and mediate inferences. It may seem a very simple point, but like all things in introductory logic, the simplicity is part of the architecture of human language. It's what makes it interesting. It's part of the the structure to our reasoning, to our thinking that we're not conscious of, often because it is so simple, but only when we sort of spell it out and get to have a look at what we've always taken for granted can we begin to see how our minds actually work in a very interesting way, how our discursive rationality works, how our linguistic reasoning works. In terms of immediate inference, what an immediate inference really is merely changing a single proposition in form. There are two ways of doing this: conversion and observation. Let's look at conversion here. When we convert a proposition, we interchange the subject and a predicate. We looked at that in the previous video. For instance, no man is an island becomes no island is a man. And some marriages are mistakes become some mistakes are marriages. Okay, so in terms of there's a fallacy also involved here that I'd like to draw your attention to. the fact that for you remember the A sentences we were looking at in the last video. If you convert an A sentence to another A sentence, it will violate a basic rule of inference, which is that no term that is undistributed in a premise may be distributed in a conclusion. So this is where the stuff on distribution from the last video comes into play here. So in fact, it's a very common formal fallacy, the fallacy of the illicit conversion of an A proposition. Last week, well, the previous week we looked at material fallacies. Now this is a formal fallacy we're looking at, the illicit conversion of an A proposition. So E and I propositions both convert validly simply by interchanging the subject and predicate. However, an A propositions do not. From all men are mortal, it does not validly follow that all mortals are men. Apes and roses are mortal too, but they are not men. And rules for converting an A proposition, and the rule for converting an A proposition is that it converts only to an I. If all men are mortal, it follows that some mortals are men. So we see that fallacy here. You might want to use a fallacy like this in your final assessment item. We haven't discussed it yet. We still have some time. But along with material fallacies, it would be good if you can also introduce formal fallacies into your analysis. It's sometimes difficult to distinguish between an illicit conversion of a simple A proposition and a compound conjunctive an proposition in which subject and predicate exchange places. Here are 4 famous cases in which the connective an might or might not be interpreted as an inference, implying and therefore, thus giving us the fallacy of an illicit conversion of an A. One, what is rational is actual, and what is actual is rational. That's a quote from Hegel. 2, what is fitting is honourable, and what is honourable is fitting. Cicero. 3, what's thine is mine, and what's mine is thine. Plautus. 4, beauty is truth, truth beauty. Keats, for those who were in modern literature course. So in that sense, we have to be careful that sometimes things that can appear to be illicit conversions aren't exactly that. There's more going on. They're material considerations rather than strict logical considerations, logical formal considerations as well, which makes the issue a bit more messy. I won't go into too much of that. I think we can discuss that online tomorrow morning. That would be great. But yeah, I just like to raise that issue. Okay, that will be enough for this video. Keep an eye out for further videos. I think I'll make small videos, about 10 minutes or under in size because of the time it takes to upload the videos, and also I'll make these videos really focusing down on a particular idea or a particular theme that can be developed quite simply, rather than trying to cover too much, so that when you do go to write your final assessment items and you think, what conversion or subject and predicate, you know which video to go to. Okay, thank you for that, and we will chat soon.